Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're taking a first look at the brand new mythical Pokemon that just released into Pokemon Go, Volcanion. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Delusion, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now, Volcanion has a typing we've never seen before in Pokemon Go. This is a fire and water type Pokemon with the moveset of Incinerate, Sludge Bomb, and Overheat. Now, it's very difficult to get a Great League eligible Volcanion. Only 10 out of the 216 spreads are Great League eligible. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out Volcanion in the Great League. Off to a dream start, Volcanion into SCIZOR. SCIZOR did not know the moveset. They stay in to take an Incinerate. Safe switch Typhlosion. Typhlosion wins charge attack priority over so many Pokemon, but not over Volcanion. Volcanion wins that charge attack priority tie, shielding up the Thunder Punch, and now we will see an aggressive switch out into Credilli. Credilli able to outpace here and pressure a shield, the opponent going from 2 shields to 0 in a split second. Volcanion in the Great League going to be on the Glacier side of things, so I wouldn't hate a no shield. We see the no shield. Opponent, they got greedy. They went for a Thunder Punch bait, and that's going to cost them. Now Credilli is very okay letting this Blast Burn go. In comes Volcanion. Volcanion is going to get a full farm down, exiting with a ton of energy. In comes Jellicent as the final Pokemon. Volcanion going to fire off the Sludge Bomb. Everything going to be resisted here. Volcanion going to bank some energy, send in Dusclops, and Dusclops will be able to absorb the Shadow Ball no problem. Shadow Ball is going to connect. We see the Shadow Punch reached by the Dusclops. This will not be enough to knock out. Jellicent will be able to hang on, but it will get that Jellicent pretty low. In comes SCIZOR. SCIZOR did not want to risk a farm down. The Dusclops was very close to a Shadow Punch, but this is just easy for Volcanion. Volcanion is going to get the full farm down, exiting with the Overheat, and it is going to be all over for Jellicent. This poor Jellicent needed back-to-back moves. It cannot get there, and that's going to be a Game 1 win. Moving into game number 2, Volcanion staring down Wigglytuff. Amazing lead. Opponent safe switching into Diggersby. And I love this play. Bank the Overheat, get the catch onto Credilli. And now that Volcanion energy is going to be incredibly difficult to deal with. The opponent actually ended up going for a Fire Punch bait there. Are they on Hyper Beam? As the save switch, I think they're on Hyper Beam, judging by the fact that they have not thrown the Scorching Sands. Instead, they're just going for Fire Punches. So that makes a bad matchup for the opponent so much worse because they chose to run Hyper Beam. Fire Punch after Fire Punch is just never going to be doing a lot of damage. Credilli more than happy to take yet another Fire Punch from this Diggersby. Diggersby able to get Credilli quite low. Aggressive switch into Volcanion, and Volcanion gets the farm down. In the back is going to be Talonflame. Talonflame, these Incinerates very heavily resisted, and Volcanion is going to be firing off Sludge Bombs. Sludge Bomb number 1 was able to land, going for Sludge Bomb number 2, and the opponent will be forced to commit the shield. To win this game, a Sludge Bomb will have to land on the Wigglytuff, so Volcanion could consider going for the double shield farm down, and that's exactly what Delusion is going for. Delusion is going to be double shielding Volcanion. The Fly is going to be shielded. In comes Wigglytuff, trying to snipe down with Charms, but Volcanion will hang on. Volcanion gets the back-to-back Sludge Bombs, and this removes all hope for the opponent. Sludge Bomb, big damage onto the Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff does get the farm down, but now in comes Dusclops. Dusclops is just way too healthy, and Wigglytuff will resign the match. We move to the next match. Volcanion very happy as it leads into the Grass-type Jumpluff. Opponent safe switches into Primeape. Primeape up energy is always terrifying. There's going to be the counter switch, and in comes Dusclops. One really nice thing about this situation is this is the non-Shadow Primeape, which means they're unable to force a shield with the second Rage Fist. A Shadow Primeape can knock out with the +1 Rage Fist there. Now Dusclops gets to be the one to put the shield pressure onto the opponent. Shadow Punch is going to be shielded. There's another Shadow Punch, and the opponent will have to go to 0 shields if they want to keep this energy. The opponent can Karate Chop down, going for a snipe with Volcanion, but it's predicted by the opponent, and that is so unfortunate. If the Incinerate went through, The Primeape obviously would get knocked out and wouldn't get its second move, but now Primeape is able to force the final shield with close combat. The final Pokemon is Golurk. There's a switch and a catch. They're fully throwing away this Jumpluff, overheat one-shots, and that play has actually just won them the game, as now there's no ability for Credilli to make a move before it gets knocked out with Dynamic Punch. Even if a catch occurs, Golurk's pacing is just too good. We do actually see the Dynamic Punch catch. A savage catch. It would be game winning in almost any other matchup, but Shadow Golurk's energy generation is too good. It makes the Dynamic Punch. Down goes Credilli, and Shadow Golurk is able to take the win. We move to the next match, Volcanion staring down Shadow Gligar. Honestly, as long as the dig doesn't land, this should be okay for Volcanion. Although Volcanion not really having a bait move to throw here is very uncomfortable. Volcanion is going to respect the dig. Opponent baits with the Aerial Ace. You absolutely hate to see it. But now Volcanion's turn to bait, as it will go for the resisted Sludge Bomb. Will the opponent shield? The answer is yes. They are going to shield, and now they're firing off another charge attack. Unfortunately, this will burn the final shield. It is going to be the dig. Volcanion going to switch into Dusclops. The opponent going to bank energy and send out Dedenne. This is not the typical answer to a Dusclops safe switch. Dusclops very happy to play out this matchup neutrally. Dusclops is going to get outpaced. Nice charge attack timing from the opponent. They will get to connect with the Parabolic Charge, buffing up their defense, but the important thing to note is that a second Parabolic Charge will not knock out. They need a play rough if they actually want to KO the Dusclops. Dusclops will get outpaced. This Parabolic is not going to be enough. Is it time to switch in Credilli? Yes. In comes Credilli trying to snipe down opponent, sends in the Gligar. Fury Cutters hitting for super effective damage, and this dig will be some pretty solid neutral damage. Credilli loses a lot of health, gets the farm down. The opponent can't afford to bring in Dedenne. They need to save it for a catch. In the back, it's their own Credilli, and they are on Bullet Seed. Bullet Seed obviously has the slightly better pacing, but you don't have the same damage output as with Acid. The opponent throws instantly, and this is a perfect opportunity to send in Volcanion. Volcanion is going to hit the field. Opponent tries for a catch, but they do not get it. Instead, the Incinerate is just going to KO, and now Volcanion has 100 energy. Sludge Bomb is going to be shielded. Volcanion gets to the overheat, and this is massive overkill. This poor Credilli wiped from the field of play by an overheat, and that's a good game. We move to the next match, Volcanion versus a Shadow Feraligatr. This is a really unfortunate lead. The water damage going to be hitting for neutral damage due to this water fire typing. Volcanion going to put up an early shield as Feraligatr goes for the Hydro, and now get that shield back most likely with the Sludge Bomb. At some point, Volcanion is going to have to switch out because this is not a matchup that they win. We do see the switch, sending in the Dusclops. Dusclops answered with Shadow Drapion, and things are rapidly going downhill. That Feraligatr energy is going to be, at this point, I think probably impossible to get rid of. Even switch advantage does not help here whatsoever, as the Feraligatr energy will also completely obliterate that Credilli. So at this point, the game is already over. It doesn't matter what they have in the back, there isn't a way to win. Honestly, giving up switch is better for the opponent here. They can just let this go and then just take the free Shadow Claw on Feraligatr, and that's exactly what they're going to do. And this Feraligatr health bar, there's just no way of getting through it. In comes Credilli. Credilli unfortunately does get the one-turn bring-in, but it's just so far behind that realistically it just does not matter. There is the Ice Beam coming out from the Feraligatr, and just like this, Credilli basically gets entirely removed from the field of play. Credilli now into the deep red health, gonna fire off the Grass Knot. Grass Knot is going to connect onto the Clodsire, but Clodsire will just get to the Sludge Bomb or the Stone Edge, whatever their cheapest move is to pick up the knockout. They're on Mega Horn for some reason. What is that? It does not KO. The Overheat is reached. Overheat KOs the Clodsire, and it's still not going to be enough because the Credilli is too low. Unfortunately, even with the opponent having the troll moveset of Mega Horn, it wasn't enough to take home the win. Dream lead in the next match, Volcanion into Fortress, but a Jellicent save swap is going to prove very problematic. Acid helps Credilli in a lot of matchups, especially matchups like Shadow Drapion where it can actually win or even force a Simul in certain shielding scenarios, but into Jellicent, it actually means that this is a losing matchup in the zeros. the acids do not farm down, and you can't really ever shield to maintain alignment, because if you do, then all of a sudden Fortress gets a bunch of energy, and endgame, a Rock Tomb may end up knocking out Volcanion. So instead, the switch advantage kind of has to be lost. In comes their final Pokemon, which is Gastrodon. Even resisted, Overheat will hurt. They are going to commit the shield. In comes Dusclops. The opponent not switching out is a pretty massive surprise to me. They really should have brought in that Fortress. By staying in with the Gastrodon, they're now sealing their fate, because the moment they switch into that Fortress, the switch timers are going to be very heavily misaligned, and then Volcanion can just incinerate it down. The Shadow Punch is going to be shielded. There's the switch to Fortress, but it's just so late. The opponent will now have 10 Bug Bites of energy, but the clock's up. In comes Volcanion. Look at Volcanion get to work. These Incinerates absolutely melting. Volcanion shields up the Rock Tomb, getting that full farm down and exiting with the Overheat. Overheat is going to be resisted damage here, and one stage debuffed into the Gastrodon. Will it be enough to knock out? It looks like the opponent may have closed the app here. It barely does not knock out, but Volcanion is going to incinerate down after they fully close their Pokemon Go app. We've got a battle of fire types in the next match, Volcanion versus Talonflame. Talonflame is going to be the one who flinches, switching out and sending in a Bullet Seed Credilli. Credilli's going to have to shield up. Neutral Overheat would hit way too hard. They will commit the shield. They're still farming. That allows Volcanion to switch out and send in Credilli. Credilli going to be very happy to absorb energy from the opposing Credilli. The opponent already took a ton of damage. Just going to fire off the Grass Knot. Poor timing, but wanting to apply this damage before a second Rock Tomb can land. The opponent does end up throwing on alignment themselves, giving a free acid of energy to Credilli. Rock Tomb lands, that does quite a bit of damage. Opponent will outpace, but I think that's very fine, because this just looks like farm down range. Potentially can just bring back in Volcanion. Opponent is going to pivot, and their final Pokemon is revealed to be Greninja. Greninja would be an absolute disaster for Dusclops, but they get absolutely deleted by Sludge Bomb. Oh my goodness, that damage. Dusclops gonna no-shield the Night Slash. That will do a lot of damage. The opponent now going for Night Slash number 2. Dusclops is just gonna let this go, able to barely hang on and fire off the last second Shadow Punch. This Shadow Punch is resisted, but they've just lost too much HP. They're getting KO'd. In comes the Talonflame. Talonflame never going to be shielding this Shadow Punch. They know this is not the most damaging move. In comes Volcanion. Met with the Credilli. Credilli gets fully farmed down, and it's all over for the opponent. There's still 2 shields for Volcanion to hide behind. Volcanion just shields once here and has the back-to-back Sludge Bombs. Incinerate goes through, but it just does not matter. Trainer, this is a fire and water type Pokemon. Incinerates, not an issue whatsoever. Sludge Bomb KOs Talonflame, and Volcanion takes home the win. We move to the next match, and this team's nemesis, Shadow Feraligatr, has returned. Volcanion gonna stay in for now, but we saw how it went last time. It went extremely poorly. Shadow Feraligatr basically swept the entire team. Volcanion shielding early, going for the Sludge Bomb, but the opponent will always have an ability to shield and just consistently outpace. We now see the switch into Dusclops. Shadow Feraligatr just decided to throw its energy. This is so incredibly nice, as the previous Feraligatr Q was lost because the Feraligatr banked the energy, but Dusclops is the only mod on the team that can actually tank a hit from this Feraligatr. Unfortunately, Dusclops threw on alignment, and the opponent returns the favor. They throw an alignment as well. An entire free hex of energy was just given to Delusion. Delusion did get debuffed, which is unfortunate. Ice Punch not going to do the same as it used to, and now in comes Credilli. Credilli very comfortable tanking whatever Diggersby wants to throw. Diggersby goes for a Fire Punch bait. That's never ever going to be shielded by Credilli, so it's a pretty poor bait from the opponent. This should be the Scorching Sands now, but again, Credilli just does not care. The opponent is not switching, which to me is very odd, because the switch timers were not desynced by a lot, so they definitely could have pivoted out. They're instead choosing to try and keep the ability to switch for the endgame. In comes Dusknoir. It's an Astonished Dusknoir. We'll have to see, is it the Shadow? It is the Shadow. And these Shadow Astonishes do add up quite a bit. In comes Volcanion, and Volcanion does get the catch. Volcanion is going to shield because the Incinerate did go through. The Sludge Bomb is fired, and the opponent is going to switch into Feraligatr. Feraligatr will commit the shield, but Feraligatr is going to have to throw energy. Feraligatr does outpace here barely. Hydro Cannon will pick up the knockout. Dusclops still has the Shadow Punch loaded to get rid of Dusknoir in the endgame. Credilli very close to a move as well. In comes Credilli. Credilli gets to the Rock Tomb, and this should secure the win. Rock Tomb is going to connect, and there is the snipe with the Dusclops. Dusclops Shadow Punch KOs Dusknoir. That game was pretty tough, but able to emerge with a win. Hopping into the final match, and things are not getting any easier. Volcanion versus Shadow Annihilape. Shadow Annihilape is just going to be able to boost its way through the entire Volcanion. Dusclops is going to have to put in some serious work. The opponent makes a very odd play in my eyes. They switch out of the boosted Annihilape and into Jellicent. Jellicent is going to win the zeros versus Credilli here. We know this, we've seen it play out a couple times. It is one of the disadvantages of running Acid. Credilli is going to go for the Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb obviously going to lower the opponent's attack, but it still means that a Shadow Ball will KO, but the opponent I think just undertaps a Surf. If they did that, that's actually a huge mistake. That is the only way that they lose the zeros is by undertapping a Surf there. Even with the debuff, a debuff Shadow Ball will knock out. So a pretty large error from the opponent. Volcanion, I believe, does have 80 energy banked. Volcanion going for the overheat. Opponent saves the Jellicent, and they make a catch onto Annihilape. Annihilape just gets fully KO'd by the overheat. In comes the Dusclops. Is this a Surf catch? It is a Surf catch, very nicely done. And now Dusclops can go for a one shield farm down. Dusclops just has to hope that its energy will be good in the back. The opponent has already had two Pokemon that are pretty soft to Dusclops, and they are just triple weak to Dusclops. Zero response. It's a Jumpluff in the back, and Jumpluff is just getting hit with Ice Punch after Ice Punch after Ice Punch. This Dusclops putting on an absolute show. There's the switch to Volcanion to force the opponent's energy. They're going to fire off Aerial Ace. Aerial Ace does KO. Dusclops just needs the Shadow Punch and will get there. The opponent needed the Acrobatics to take the win. They are unable to get there. Shadow Punch KOs, and that is a good game. And now some final thoughts on Volcanion in Pokemon Go. First off, I really like seeing when new type combinations that haven't previously been in Pokemon Go get added. Even if it is a mythical, so it's a pretty rare Pokemon to get, Fire plus Water is a cool combination. Obviously, by adding water to the fire typing, you're able to undo your own weakness to water. You're able to add a double resist to opposing fire. And by adding fire to water, you obviously make it so you're taking neutral from grass. I think its typing is very interesting defensively, but its biggest current issue is a lack of a true bait move. Sludge Bomb does not get same type attack bonus on Volcanion, and it is 15 turns to get to its first move, meaning that every single meta Pokemon is going to be able to outpace it. This is a meta where whoever is faster to get to charge moves is probably going to end up taking home the win, just because this is a very high-paced dynamic meta. And I do have its learn set pulled up here. There are a couple options that it could potentially learn in the future. Obviously, Body Slam, not what it once was, but Body Slam is an option. Brick Break is an option. Bulldoze is an option in terms of cheaper moves for Volcanion. So I would really like to see Volcanion get a true bait move at some point in the future because its typing is really cool. I think it has, honestly, a surprising amount of potential play in the Master League. Just because having a resistance to steel and being a fire type means that you're pretty good into the crown forms. So I'd be interested to see. Obviously, my Volcanion, personally, I didn't end up getting very good IV, so I will not be building up the Master League, but I'm curious to see if anyone ends up building up the Master League so we can see what it looks like there. Because I do think, even with its slow pacing, its ability to honestly do really well into the crown forms, and the crown forms probably being just about every single team, could make for some very fun content. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.